Probably one of my favorite things about this game is its amazing arsenal of weaponry. It's some of the most creative weapons I have ever seen in an FPS. I mean, how many games allow you to fire a rifle that shoots tranquilizer darts full of urine? Go ahead, name another game aside from TF2 that allows that. You can't think of any, right? Well, along with those really creative and very effective weapons, come those unlocks that, you know, are just heaps of metal filth. Either A, their downsides are way too much for a very weak and measly upside. There's another weapon that does the same thing that does it much more effectively. Or 3, it's completely pointless altogether, either with stats that are like very pointless or very easy to do on your own, that only a very lazy person would actually use it. And today, we're going to be taking a look at them. Welcome to my list of the top 9 most useless TF2 weapons. Just want to point out that I'll also be including the potential balance changes from the blog post a couple months ago, so if you're wondering why some weapons aren't on that list that you think might be pointless, that is why. If you don't like my list, well, too bad. Anyways, let's get started. First up, we take a look at the Scout, and if it wasn't for me talking about that, I'm also going to be including the balance changes from that blog post, the Pretty Boy's pocket pistol would have definitely taken this spot. What with a 20% damage vulnerability, for a measly 5 health on hits, and no falling damage. I mean, you could just use the Mad Milk if you need health. So, however, now that that's going to be, at the very least, a little bit more viable, the Rap Assassin is the new spotlight thing. I can't think of anything. And in exchange for a little bit of a damage penalty, you'll be able to, on alt fire a Christmas ornament that does bleed damage. It's somewhat like if the Sandman and Boston Basher had a kid. However, this thing is so useless. I mean, do you want to know how much a random crit does? 37 damage. And that was a full-on crit does that. It does less than 10 damage, maybe even more, like 12 or something. I'm not on the wiki up. But still, this thing is so useless. Oh, but it can fire a ball that does bleed damage. It's not that useless. You know what else does bleed damage?
My mom!
Okay, but seriously, you know what else does better bleed damage than the Rap Assassin? The Boston Basher. Oh, but wait, what if you can't aim it properly? The Flying Guillotine. It does more damage than the ball does anyways. So really, this thing is a complete waste of a melee slot. It may have its moments now and then, but like I said, the Boston Basher is better than the Rap Assassin in every conceivable way. And that's why it's on this list. And now, it's time to talk about, in a lot of people's eyes, including mine, the worst weapon in Team Fortress 2. The Righteous Bison. Once upon a time, it wasn't as bad as it used to be. It was a pretty interesting secondary for the soldier that allows to hit people more than once with your projectile. Which was crazy, and with the Crit Creek, very awesome, just destroying through enemy territory. However, in Meet Your Match, this thing got nerfed for no reason. It wasn't even that good to begin with. It was just a little fun weapon to use, but for some reason, Valve nerfed it. First of all, it removed the ability to hit a target more than once after calling it a bug. Not only that, but also nerfing the projectile speed. Now it's the slowest projectile in the game. I mean, seriously, the projectile is more easier to dodge in a parked car. So it went from debatably bad to incredibly bad. I mean, if you can get a kill with this thing, you'll be probably a little interesting. I mean, some people like to use it just to see how bad it is. Others just like to use it with the cow mango to get the item set. But seriously, this thing's so pointless. So what if it doesn't require ammo? Big whoop. Oh, but pyros can't air blast it. Well, then use the shotgun. They can't reflect hit scan either. And the shotgun's better than this weapon in every way. Oh, but only doing 20% damage to buildings? Like, that's the only downside? Yeah, slower projectile speed, and it's got like a so big of a damage penalty. Seriously, the Righteous Bison is not worth the whopping $7.50 to get it on your own in the Manco store. I highly recommend, if you want this weapon so bad, just look it up on the Steam market. They're probably the cheapest things in the world. Long story short, The Righteous Bison is a waste of a secondary slot. It's just a complete, utter garbage heap of metal downgrade to the shotgun. I would take the past against the future any day of the week. Now, frankly, when you think about Pyro's melees, they're sort of pointless, because if you're going to be so close to them, if you can hit them at melee range, just like use the flamethrower. That'll kill them off in an instant. Really, 65 damage, while it's helpful, doesn't really cut it. However, when the Volcano Fragment came out, it just basically became the most pointless weapon in my opinion. To start off, it ignites players on hit for a little bit of a damage penalty. That's a pretty interesting stat, if it wasn't for the fact that it's on the class designed for fire combats. I mean, what's the point of hitting them with a fire axe that lights people on fire if you have a flamethrower that could do that so much easier? Okay, there's other people that say, oh, it's good for when you don't have any ammo. I don't believe that, because you have a lot of ammo in your flamethrowers, and not to mention, 95% of the time you'll have the flare deton shot melter. So if you ever run out of ammo in both of those weapons, you're not doing your job right. Because I have played Pyro a lot, and I have never ran out of flamethrower ammo unless I do a lot of air blasting. Then a lot of people say it's good for the flog for building oomph. If you're at melee range, use the flog. It's not so hard, you just hold down the mouse 1 button. And about medieval mode. It sounds like a good idea, but let's not forget that health kits drop every time you kill somebody. So really, if you're on fire, there's health kits littered all over the place, like Walmart, McDonald's, in every single town in America. And plus, like I said in my last video about the top 9 best weapons for medicless teams, the back scratcher is a direct upgrade, giving you a damage bonus, extra health from health kits, and its downside of less health from medic and dispensers don't even exist in this game mode. So frankly, the Volcano Fragment is a complete waste of a slot. I know I said this with every single weapon so far, but it is. It's pointless, and really, it's a downgrade. So if you use the Volcano Fragment, even if you have no other unlocks, use stock. It's better than the Volcano Fragment in every single way. And even if you do have unlocks, use the Power Jack or the Back Scratcher. It's not that hard. Heck, I don't even care if you use the Neon Annihilator. Just use something other than the Volcano Fragment because it's so pointless. Oh boy. When I think of Demo Man, it's just really sad because Demo Man just gets more nerfs in my opinion than any other class in the game, even more than Heavy. I mean seriously, the lock and load is horrible at this point because really, it's very situational. Things like the tie turn, the Claymore, which were very good at launch, is now just bottom of the barrel. And saddest of all, the Whirlpool Caber. Once upon a time, this thing was every light class's worst nightmare. You never know when the demo with the Sticky Jumper and Base Jumper, along with this grenade stick, will come plowing down and insta-killing you before you even knew what happened. But in Gunmetal, this thing finally got taken down a notch. And in a lot of people's eyes, a little too much. Now a light class has to be hit twice in able for it to kill them. You know what else does that? Every other demo melee! So frankly, while I wasn't a big fan of the old stats, the new stats is just so pointless. Not to mention when you hit somebody, you blow yourself up and do damage to yourself too, which is basically like getting a hit from them. Not only that, but along with its 30% slower firing speed and its no random critical hits, this thing takes so long to deploy. I mean seriously, I can watch the entire Back to the Future trilogy in the time it takes to pull that out. For a measly damage bonus that doesn't even kill a 125 class in an instant. At the very most, it'll take them down to 1 health, which will be an embarrassing death. So really, the Caber, while it's an interesting idea on taking out huge, big crowds, use the primary grenade launcher, Sticky Bomb Launcher. I mean, that does what the Caber does, but 2 million times better. Long story short, the Caber is a completely useless weapon. It's something new to look at, but however, if you really want to do really good damage, use the other weapons and save your melee slot for something a little more, you know, not garbage. When thinking of what to put on the heavy section of the most useless TF2 weapon for heavy, it came down to 3 final options: the Brass Beast, the Locust Bar, and the Warrior's Spirit. That was before I thought about him a little bit more up close. The Brass Beast's stats, while it needs a little bit of tinkering, are actually somewhat legit, giving heavy a lot of extra damage just for a little bit less speed. And the Locust Bar is really good for tackling huge amounts of crowds when you don't have a medic up your butt 24/7. But the Warrior Spirit, no. You see, with the Warrior Spirit, its upsides are pretty straight. A 30% damage bonus and 50 health restored on kill. That's fantastic, right? Well, if you're gonna be that close up to an enemy at melee range to begin with, just use your minigun. I mean, that thing can shred anybody in just seconds. And for the 50 health on kill, you got the sandwich, so what's the big point of getting a little bit of health when you could get all your health back after just being immobilized for a few seconds around the corner? Yeah, that's not really that good upsides. And then you got the downside, a 30% damage vulnerability on wearer. Not while active, on wearer. It turns the huge wall that nobody can destroy to a piece of bread floating in the Atlantic Ocean. Yeah, it's not really that good, is it? But what about the Buffalo Steak? I mean, those 2 weapons are supposed to be used together, doing mini crits, faster movement speed, damage bonus, and a little bit health on kill, right? Well, that's basically like mixing a puke with diarrhea. It's not the best thing to do. In fact, it's probably the dumbest thing you can do. Because the Buffalo Steak also gives you a damage vulnerability as well that stacks with the Warrior Spirit damage vulnerability to a whopping, get this, 55% damage vulnerability. Is that really worth it for a little bit extra damage and some health back on kill? Yeah, I think not. And as you can see in this footage, I did horrible. The 30% damage vulnerability really screwed me up, and I'm frankly a pretty good heavy. Didn't really get many kills in my Australian when I had it, but whatever. So frankly, the Warrior Spirit, if you're going to use it, I highly recommend you don't, because it's a complete waste of time, and you're going to get killed over and over and over again. You know, I think Engineer was the hardest one to choose out of all of them, since the majority of the weapons that everyone says is horrible aren't really that horrible when you think about it. For example, the Thompson's actually good for screwing up spies as well as stopping Uber pushes. Even the Short Circuit, despite the fact I kind of think this is a little stupid, is really helpful when your entire enemy team is full of soldiers and demos spamming rockets, grenades, and stickies all over the place. But however, I did come down to my final pick, the Eureka Effect. It's a pretty interesting concept, somewhat like the Warrior Spirit, but this one's not really that good. The upsides are, after pressing the reload key, you're allowed to teleport back to your spawn, or your teleport to exit if it's built or not. And you can teleport to your exit even if it's not active. Not to mention, teleporters are only 25 metal compared to the regular 50. Well, that sounds nice. However, the downsides are a little too much in my opinion. They're not that bad, like not as bad as they used to be. You know, the ones with the slower build rate and repair rate. But however, they're not really that good to begin with. To start off, a 50% slower construction hit speed boost. You know when you hit your sentry while it's still being built and it builds a little bit faster? Well, with the Eureka Effect, the speed boosted cut in half. And it might not sound like much, but you'll be amazed how much an extra couple seconds will do to a sentry. Not to mention, less ammo from kits and dispensers, which might not sound like much, but in my opinion, is pretty devastating when you're trying to keep a building up. It's on this list because its downsides are a little crazy, and its upsides is probably one of the most pointless in the game. Because 95% of the time, if you're actually playing Engi right, you're probably going to be right by spawn or a health or ammo kit. So it's not really that pointless going back to spawn anyways. Long story short, the Eureka Effect, while it's interesting and it looks actually kind of cool to be honest, it's not really worth your wait. stick to the stock, or if you really want to use this other hospitality, use that. But I highly recommend you don't use the Eureka effect. When I'm trying to think of a bad, or at the very most a useless medic weapon, it's kind of hard, since medic doesn't really have that many weapons, and a lot of them are pretty useful. Sure, the vaccinator doesn't really have many times where it's actually useful, but it's good for pushing through certain classes. Like, for example, if you're going against a couple soldiers and demos, just go through explosive resistance, and you'll be able to maybe do a good job. However, I did end up narrowing it down to the overdose. The main reason being, its upside's fairly pointless. Sure, the movement speed bonus is good. However, I do not like the fact that it's only while active. Meaning you'll have to have that thing out only for you to get a little bit of the speed boost. Well, then again, the speed boost is pretty pointless since the medic's already the second fastest class in the game, tied with the spy. So why does medic need a speed boost when he's faster than 7 out of the 9 classes? Not only that, but you only get the full 20% movement speed if you have a full Uber charge. And plus, 20% extra movement speed, while it might be at the very most a little bit noticeable at full Uber, you shouldn't really be wasting your time with that thing. In fact, if you have a full Uber, don't waste it by using it as a speed boost crutch. Use it to help out your team. That's what an Uber charge does. If you use the Uber charge just to give yourself a little bit more mobility, that's the definition of insanity and a complete waste of an Uber. Since this thing also has a damage penalty, you're probably going to die. And that's a complete waste of an Uber charge. So, if you're going to use a syringe gun, use a crossbow, or if you're competent, the Bloodsaugr, or if you're free to play, just use the stock. But I highly recommend you stay away from the overdose. Its downsides are a little too much for a weak and measly movement speed bonus. I've noticed that weak and measly and a waste of slots in this video a lot, but that's what a lot of these weapons are. Just crappy gimmicks with horrible upsides. And on top of that, I'd like to point out that this weapon looks like it just got pulled out of the dumpster at Walgreens. I mean, it looks cool, but still, that's just like, yeah. I don't know what I'm saying. When I originally started this list, I was originally going to think about the Sahansha being on this list basically being just a sniper equalizer. However, I didn't quite think about it, but then I realized the classic, in my opinion, is more pointless. Okay, so it looks a little bit interesting. Instead of a point-and-click sniper rifle, you have to charge it up by holding it down and then letting go of the left mouse button. And then, you basically got yourself a pretty interesting sniper rifle, right? Well, then there's the problem. You can't headshot until you get a full charge, and on top of that, it does less damage on a body shot. The real gimmicky thing I find about it is that you can aim your shot without scoping in. So if you want to be like a Call of Duty kid and get that 360 no-scope shot, well, you can do it. However, you're gonna have to wait. I mean, it's fun scoping around while moving at normal speed, but then you have to hold down the mouse. It's sort of like Beggar's Bazooka, in my opinion. It's sort of like that almost. While it's something interesting, I kind of think that the classic might just be a waste of a sniper rifle. It's sort of like the Huntsman, but as a gun. Just use the Huntsman if you want to do it. It does more damage anyways, and you don't really have to scope in the first place. However, the classic, it's fun, but I kind of think it's just a discount Huntsman. I don't get why, but Spy, in my opinion, has some of the most weakest weapons in the game. I mean, I don't really see much use aside from the stock knife, occasionally the stock revolver, but like 95% of the Spy's use the Ambassador, despite the fact that I've made a video about how it sucks compared to the Diamondback, as well as the Dead Ringer and, of course, the stock Zapper, because, you know, the red tape core is just complete garbage. However, there are some fun little ways to have messed around with the other team, and, well, in my opinion, my least favorite and most useless weapon, in my opinion, is the Band-Aid Switchblade, the Big Earner. Okay, this weapon, I don't get who made this weapon, but still, even with the new buff that came in, I think was the gunmetal update, this thing is so useless, giving you a 30% extra cloak on kill, a little bit of a speed bonus on kill as well, at the cost of 25 less health. Yeah, okay, yeah, let's just go ahead and talk about how this is a bad idea. To start off, 30 cloak on kill. Do I have to mention that you get cloak anyways from just killing people? I mean, you get a medium ammo box every time you kill somebody, so what's the point? But many people say that the new buff of the additional speed boost on kill is a good idea for escaping. Well, we got the Dead Ringer for that does the exact same thing on top of cloaking you and giving you a damage resistance, which is much better for the escapes from the pyros and soldiers and sentries trying to shoot at you after you get a kill. So pretty much, in my opinion, the big earner, while it's something interesting to look at, is just a complete downgrade to stock. Not to mention 100 damage, you get one shot by a lot. Not as much as the kunai, but still, a lot. A single rocket or grenade direct hit will kill you and end your demise. Scout meat shot, shotgun meat shot, and you'll be destroyed by the pyro in just utter seconds. So, I'm a bad spy, and having this in my melee slot just makes me even look like a complete idiot. So long story short, the big earner, it's fun to use. Being able to become Sonic the Hedgehog for a couple seconds after you get a backstab to go backstab more people, but the downside of minus 25 health is completely vulnerable. It's sort of like the warrior spirit. It turns you into a very sneaky Frenchman spy, into just a laughing stock in the entire server. Good luck getting a kill with this thing, and even if you do, good luck surviving after that. And those are my picks for the top 9 most utterly garbage and pointless weapons in the entire game. Did you agree? Disagree? Tell me in the comments below what you might think is a useless weapon in TF2. Also, tell me what you would like to see next. My next video will probably be the top 9 crit weapons. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you would like to donate to this channel, that would be huge. Trading link will be in the description below. Every donator will be featured at the end of every video. So thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe like I said, and thank you all so much for watching. This is Skawk, signing out. Peace.